I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the average Joe just trying to buy a duplex, 4 unit, 10 unit, single family home, how to get started. All right, today's topic, it's a good one. Most people don't have a lot of money to invest, and they want to know how to get started with zero money down or very little money down. And I think most teachers or instructors or mentors that you see online and they want you to buy something, maybe one of their programs or their book, they make it sound a lot easier than it is. It's not very complicated. It's actually very simple to understand. It's just a lot harder to implement and to put into daily practice, finding the right deal and putting that creative financing together. Now, listen, I'm not an expert, and there are probably some big commercial deals and multi-billion-dollar deals that are put together in some crazy fashion where maybe you're pulling in investors and you're using their money. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the average Joe just trying to buy a duplex, 4 unit, 10 unit, single family home, how to get started. And I think the premise stays the same. It just gets a lot more complicated when you get into these bigger deals, which I don't get involved with. So I stay in my lane and I do what I do. And I stay there because that's what I know and I feel comfortable there. And you can do well. You don't have to be putting together multi-billion-dollar deals to become financially independent. So I made some notes here. Zero money down. Just a quick story. When I first started, I think it was about 90. I had my real estate license. I think it was 96. I found a deal. It was on the MLS. It was I think it was an expired property, or it was on the market for a while. It was a 3 unit in Beachview, which is a part of the city of Pittsburgh. And I didn't have a whole lot of money then. I didn't really know what I was doing either. Somehow I talked to the owner and I said, "Hey, would you sell this to me? I could put $5,000 down. You hold the mortgage and I'll make payments to you for 2 years." He's like, "Yeah, okay." Like, what? Okay. Great. Now what? So I think I had a credit card. I got $5,000 on the credit card. I gave him 5,000 down, made payments to him for 2 years, refinanced out, bought that money with zero money down. I might even have cashed out when I sold it. When I refinanced it, maybe I pulled money out. I don't recall. It's been a while. But that's one way to do it, right? You use someone else's money. In this case, it was the credit cards company's money, and it was the owner's money, the owner's equity. He held the mortgage. I think maybe the terms were 8% on the interest rate, and whatever it was, it worked for me. Okay. So that's one way to do it. Another way doesn't have to be credit card, it can be a line of credit. You could have other assets. You could have a personal line of credit. Maybe it's unsecured. Okay, that means you have to be relatively financially good and have a really good credit score and have a good reputation with that particular bank where you can get an unsecured line of credit. But most lines of credit are secured on a piece of property. So if you own your own single family home, or maybe you own a duplex and it's worth 200,000 and you only owe 100 on it, the bank might lend you $50,000 on a second mortgage as a line of credit. So you have basically on that duplex, you have $50,000 to play with, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can go on vacation or you can reinvest it, which I would suggest you reinvest it. So let's pretend that you own a duplex and you have 100,000 in equity. You owe 100, it's worth 200. The bank's not going to lend you an additional 100. They might lend you 50,000 more. And that's a second mortgage, a line of credit. You could take that 50,000 now, and you can go ahead and buy a property. If you use conventional financing with 20% down, that would allow you to buy a property of about 200,000, because you're going to have some closing costs in there and so on and so forth. So you could basically buy a $200,000 duplex, single family, 4-unit, depending on what part of the country you're in Pittsburgh, $200,000 can get you a decent duplex, sometimes a 4-unit in a less desirable area, but you can do some damage with a $200,000 property. That $50,000 is your down payment and will cover most of your closing costs if you get an 80% loan. So if on a $200,000 property, the bank's going to want with 80%, they're going to want $40,000 down. Then that leaves you about $10,000 to pay closing costs, appraisal fees, prorated taxes, and all that good stuff. So that's another way to do it with a line of credit. Another way to buy zero money down is to have a partner, have a financial partner. So when you pick partners, just make sure you pick the right person, someone you can trust, someone who has the same vision as you. But more importantly, someone who also complements you. Like if you both have the same skill set, it may not work out. If you want to be the boots on the ground guy or gal, and you have a rich uncle or aunt who has some money and they're just sitting in the bank and they're like, yeah, let's do business together. They'll finance it. You'll do all the work. You split it 50-50 or you work out some other amicable terms. So you're using someone else's money to purchase an asset. Then what happens after you purchase it with your partner? At some point you refinance it. You get all that money back. Your partner gets all his money back, his or her money. And then you can start all over again. You can use that equity that your partner has and go buy another one. So you just rinse and repeat. You can also use what's called private money or hard money. So private money is basically at a higher percentage rate. Like I use private money a lot. I'll pay anywhere from 10% to sometimes as high as 15%. I mean, sometimes as low as 8% because I have some really good private lenders who've lent money to me for a long time and they know that I'm good for it. So they feel comfortable. Therefore, I reap the benefits of getting a better interest rate. But average person is going to pay probably between 12 and 15% for a private loan. It's very high, but you're only using it for a short time. So if you we're not talking about flips here. We're talking about buy and hold. So if you purchase a duplex for $100,000, it needs work. The private lender might say to you, you know what? I want you to put down 10%. Okay. They might want you to have some skin in the game. So you might have to find 10%. Sometimes you don't have to find any. They're going to finance the purchase and they're going to finance the rehab. When that's all done and you have everything operational and you have the units rented, now you can go to a conventional lender. After 3 to 4 months of it being rented and performing, they call that seasoning. The bank's going to want to see it's a performing property. Then they may allow you to refinance. Some banks want to see longer seasoning. Some banks don't want to see any seasoning. And it also depends on your experience level and your history, your track record, and financially how strong you are is how long seasoning that they would want. So a bunch of different variables. But the long and short of it is you are going to refinance out. And at the current interest rates, they're like 5.5%, 6.5%. 6 months ago, they were 4%. You'll refinance out of that loan, pay off the hard money lender. Hopefully the property appraises for enough money. So for example, you paid $100 for it. Let's say you had to put $30 into it. So now you owe that hard money lender $130,000. We're hoping that the added value of the work you did and the increased in rent, you're now sitting on an asset that's worth $175,000. So $175,000, the bank's going to lend you based on that value. So they'll lend you 75%, 80% of that, depending on the loan to value of that specific lender. You hope that appraised value comes in high enough where you can take all that money and pay off the hard money lender. So therefore, you pretty much got into this property with zero money down. You use the hard money lender's money to acquire it. Yes, you pay higher interest rate, but it's only for a short time. Now you again rinse and repeat. You do that, you have to go find another property. those are probably the simplest, most commonly used methods to buy with zero money down. I think the biggest challenge is conceptually you can pretty much grasp this. Anybody can. If you think about it enough and you write it on paper and you look at it, within an hour you get your head wrapped around it. So it's pretty simple. The challenge is being disciplined, waiting for the right deal, finding the right deal, and then attacking on the right deal, because you can't procrastinate. So if you find the right deal, you have to act quickly. So have your money and have your plan already set in place. So when you do find the property, you're ready to act. Don't find the property and then scramble for the money, because it's not going to work, especially in a hot market. The other thing you really need to consider too is what kind of market are you in? Are you in a seller's market or a buyer's market? And that's going to dictate, I think, how creative you can get. In a seller's market, the ability for you to get creative is going to be a lot more difficult. In a buyer's market where the sellers are scrambling to just find a buyer, the creativity can be opened up quite a bit. You know, you can take over mortgage payments. You can have, if the person has a lot of equity, they can, or they don't have a mortgage, they'll hold a mortgage for you. So depending on the market, if it's a buyer's market, you can get much more creative as a buyer when you're dealing with a seller. I think this covered all the basics, simple, most commonly used methods of buying with zero money down, you know, small single families to 10, 15, 20 unit buildings. If you ever have any questions or you want to listen to more podcasts, I'm sure I have some where we're interviewing someone who does a lot of hard money lending and this and that. Just go to the YouTube channel and check it out. You can also email me, alex@alexdeacon.com. I'm happy to help. I'm always here to answer questions. I like doing it, and you have a good day.